Leisure by W.H. Davies. What is this life if full of care? We have no time to stand and stare. No time to stand beneath the boughs and stare as long as sheep and cows. No time to see when woods we pass, where squirrels hide their nuts in grass. No time to see in broad daylight streams full of stars like skies at night. No time to turn at beauty's glass and watch her feet, how they can dance. No time to wait till her mouth can enrich the smile her eyes began. A poor life this, if full of care. We have no time to stand and stare. So if you are a careful reader and confused, you may have noticed that in our newsletter and on our website, the title of this service is Slow Down, You Move Too Fast. And some of how we're going to experience this service is slowing down. And slowing down also enables us to experience the sacred because we are mindfully paying attention to what we do. So I want to share that usually you'll see someone come up, say something or not, and then someone goes broom, broom, and lights the chalice. But it is not that simple. So for those of you who have never lit the chalice, very good, very good. Making past tense. Who have never lit the chalice. Let me explain what happens for those of us who set things up. So first, we light the chalice with this candle, and then, you never see someone light a match. Why not? Because there's this lit candle and people just light the chalice. But really, when those of us prepare, we come in, and this little candle is full of sand. Why is it it's full of sand? Because it's been doused with sand. I love things. She's so brilliant. So actually the whole process of lighting the chalice begins by the person preparing the service, the minister, the worship associate, or Nancy Richmond, who is more helpful than she knows. So before the service begins, we've cleaned off the sand on this candle, and then we light this one. No, we don't light this one. We clean off the sand on the candle, and we light this tea light. This is truly a multidimensional process. So we light the tea light, and then when the person comes up, the tea light is lit, and they light the candle. So I will now, stage 2, light the chalice.
Words from Ebertoli. When you lose touch with inner stillness, you lose touch with yourself. When you lose touch with yourself, you lose yourself in the world. Your innermost sense of self, of who you are, is inseparable from stillness. This is the I am that is deeper than name and form.
Please rise in spirit or in body to recite our covenant. We are reading responsively. I'll read a line, and then you respond back and forth. For those of you who say this, the covenant every week, notice the difference. Love is the spirit of this congregation.
Love is the spirit of this congregation.
And service is its prayer.
And service is its prayer.
This is our great covenant.
This is our great covenant.
To dwell together in peace.
To dwell together in peace.
To seek the truth in love.
To seek the truth in love.
And to help one another.
And to help one another.
Amen.
Oops. I'd like to invite you now to dwell together in a very specific way by sharing your joys and concerns.
I guess the mic is on. So as I was thinking about, what am I going to say at the offering, for the offering, a memory surfaced from my life from the 1970s, shortly after I moved to Rhode Island. I was in my late 20s, it was the late 70s, and I was gainfully unemployed, which meant I worked at a hotline crisis center and did nude modeling for money. And I was, at that point in my life, so interested in the creative possibilities that I found in South Kingstown. The guild, it was the Guild and the South County Art Association. And that was the time, and this was the 1970s, black and white photography, where you took the pictures and you went into the dark room and you developed, right, the picture surface. And also at South County Art Association, pottery. So, on the wheel, but also, and this is what gets relevant. The rest is preamble. I made this statue, and it was called Attempt at Offering. And it was a kneeling woman, maybe so high, and so she's kneeling, her hands are like this, they're extended out, and there was a detachable like a flat bowl that you could lift on and off of the statue. I don't know what happened to it. Did it get fired? Did it break during firing? I don't know. I remember it when it was in its gray clay stage. And so that's really what I was thinking about. And I was thinking about, here we are at offering, and we get the opportunity to offer. And so I started to ask myself this week, what did I mean by an attempt at offering? I had an empty bowl, and I imagined that if the statue had been completed and fired and was so solid, then I probably would have had it displayed and put something in the bowl to offer. Maybe cloves. Right now, right in my house, I have some cloves around just for the fragrance, or lavender, right? Or, Buddhists might have rice. And so what am I offering? And it just struck me the beauty and energy of this gesture, and how so much of offering, there's this kind of gesture, and then the bowl, and then now we're going to have the nets, that you put something, there's a container, and that circularity, that possibility of being filled. So I invite you now to contribute to our offering for our congregation. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your gifts. We will use them wisely and well. I will hold the mic. I'm a recovering adrenaline junkie. It feels so stimulating to just act, no restraints. It's fun to be totally spontaneous, even impulsive. It makes me feel alive. Even rushing makes me feel alive. Because it brings that rush of adrenaline. The downside is that if I don't intersperse those bursts with rest breaks, I become cranky and I deplete my energy. Twice, that lifestyle has brought me to the point of chronic fatigue. I find it ironic that my impulse to live from adrenaline, since I've lived for so many years teaching that there's one thing that I could do to improve my sense of well-being and my health, saying that that would be mindfulness, being aware, intentional, deliberate. But really, what's the fun in that? When I used to run my Making Peace with Food and Your Body workshops, I would play with that dichotomy by experimenting with different ways of eating. I thought it might be fun for us to do together, and even if some of you have done this before. When you came in, you were given a little plastic bag with a couple of raisins. Did anyone not get a bag? Raise your hand. Okay, Nancy will bring you one. Anybody here got one? And people on Zoom, imagine it or get something for yourself to eat if you like, and try this with us. If you'd like to do this with me, and feel free not to for any reason you don't want to, take out just one raisin and eat it. Make sure to leave the other one in the bag. It feels weird to eat just one raisin, doesn't it? And just notice your experience. Now take the second raisin out of the bag. And pause. As you hold this raisin, notice what you feel about eating it. Are you feeling a sense of anticipation? Excitement? Impatience? Boredom? Notice what thoughts are running through your mind, whether about the raisin, or this experience, or something else that's captured your attention. Notice the raisin's size, its color, feel its texture in your fingers or the palm of your hand. Smell it, and bite into it. Try slowing down, chewing slowly, breathing as you chew, really tasting the raisin, savoring it. And notice if this way of eating makes this raisin taste different from the first one that you ate. And notice how this experience of eating mindfully is affecting you. Is your mind more settled? Your body calmed? Conversely, notice any irritation, any impatience. Notice whatever you're experiencing. Sometimes when I've done this exercise before, people have automatically eaten their raisins before we get to the experience. Because it's hard to have a piece of food in front of us and not eat it, right? Either because we find it difficult to sit with the anticipation, or because our mind has distracted us and we go into autopilot. Even when we're deliberately eating something like raisins or M&Ms, we typically take a handful and we just chomp it down, right? Automatically, without thinking. We might feel some pleasure, but not the satisfaction that we experience when we eat slowly. with awareness and appreciation. I don't do this as often as you would think, given that I've been teaching mindful eating for years. But when I do, I find that I enjoy my food more and I'm satisfied with less. Which brings to mind a story of a mindful eating experience. I went to a meditation retreat and an overnight for several days, and for dinner, I was sitting next to a meditation teacher. And we had dinner, and someone brought brownies to each of the tables. And I took a brownie and I put it on my plate, and I offered it to the meditation teacher. And I watched her as she reached, I'll make sure that people in Zoom can see this, that she reached for it slowly and brought it to her nose and smelled and took a bite, just a bite. And I could see how luscious it was for her. Remember that experience. I've never forgotten it. Jake Eagle, my friend and mentor, developed a model that has helped me enormously, which he generously gave permission for me to share with you. It should be in your order of service. In his program that I took, Jake taught us his model of living consciously, focusing on his 3 levels of consciousness paradigm. He started with what we call safety consciousness. So if you look at your handout, look at the bottom, and within safety consciousness, you'll see that there are 3 levels. At the bottom are experiences of true danger, which trigger us into fight or flight. Or if we can't do either, we freeze. But rarely is there a true danger in a particular moment, even though, as an aside, our nervous system really can't tell the difference between real danger and our thoughts of danger. What they call a real tiger and a paper tiger. Most of us spend most of our time in the top 2 levels of safety consciousness: anxiety, looking for threats, and purposeful action. In other words, what is the problem and how do I fix it? Learning this model helped me recognize that I'm frequently caught in that cycle, looking for what might go wrong, and then my very capable fixer part tries to figure out what to do. This cycle makes me feel really confident and often in control, which I think is its purpose. But if I stay in that loop, always looking for and fixing problems, I exhaust myself. And life feels pretty mundane and eventually kind of numbing. But if I use Jake's other states of consciousness, heart and spaciousness, I feel more grounded, more connected, more at ease. In the course, Jake suggested that we try to recognize when we're in safety consciousness, a very important, necessary state to function in our world, and then ask ourselves, is heart available? Can I open to the feeling of appreciation, gratitude? Almost always, that question opens me up. My breathing deepens, I feel calmer, and I have an expanded container to be with whatever I'm dealing with. And what about the top level, spaciousness? I experience that as a state of beingness, sometimes with a sense of awe or wonder. No words. I think this is the inner stillness that Eckhart Tolle is talking about, that comes when we are so engaged in a moment that, and I'm quoting him here, the usual mental static of thought subsides and is replaced by an aware presence. When I watched my meditation teacher savor that piece of brownie, and perhaps when you ate the second raisin mindfully, I saw the way that my teacher ate that brownie brought her into a state of deep appreciation, as well as a state that I might call wonder. Watching her through the mirror neurons we experience with one another, I was brought into that state too. I think of these three levels of consciousness in two ways. In one sense, they can be separate, and if I'm intentional, I can move up and down the levels. Hearing a magnificent piece of music, or watching a bird nibbling at the bird feeder, I'm brought into that exquisite stillness of space consciousness. For me, it's a refuge. Or when I look at the beauty and feel the warmth that Nancy has helped create in my, now our, home since moving in last month, I'm filled with gratitude and love, heart consciousness, and any negative thoughts that may have been floating in my mind from where I was stuck in safety seem to just melt away. On the other hand, I've experienced how these states blend when I'm living in a state of flow that I call living from the inside out. And I'll tell you how I use it. Like most of you, I generally have a big to-do list. If I'm in productivity mode, the top level of safety consciousness, I focus on doing one task after another. I get to cross many of them off, but as I said earlier, I get depleted. But if I make my list and then decide to follow my own rhythm with a sense of timelessness, I can bring myself into a state of flow. Thoughts come and go without taking hold because I'm aware of my senses as I place my attention on what I'm doing, not thoughts of past or future. What's amazing is that everything is pleasurable. Doing the dishes, even the bills can be relaxing. When I give myself this gift that I call living from the inside out, most of the tasks on my list get done, and I feel a sense of ease, at home with myself and with the world. Perhaps the simple exercise of eating the raisin gave you a sense, in a very simple way, of Jake's states of consciousness. So different from eating on autopilot as a task, or to scratch the itch of a craving when we shovel down the food in it with a burst of adrenaline, and at the end, barely recognize what we've eaten, or even that we've eaten. Experiencing the texture, smell, and taste of the food, eating slowly and deliberately with a sense of appreciation, even wonder, gives us an opportunity to feel a different kind of aliveness. Eckhart Tolle writes, quote, "The moment you realize you are not present, you are present. Whenever you are able to observe your mind, you're no longer trapped in it." That's the whole journey in one sentence. End quote. Adrenaline rushes and endless doing are not the enemy. They're the bell of mindfulness reminding us we've stepped out of the house again and we need to come home. Every time we hear that bell, we have a choice. We can keep chasing the next adrenaline rush, or we can turn inward and discover the one place the rush can never reach, the formless, timeless stillness that is already whole. That stillness is who we are. True aliveness isn't something we chase. It's the ground we are already standing on when we finally stop running.
Please rise now in body or in spirit for the teal hymnal.
We've already had our announcements, so now we're just coming to our end. We'll extinguish the chalice and gather in our circle together.
We